Cinema Legend Award, esteemed actor Michelle Yeoh. Thank you so much.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Sorry we're late, but I heard there's a marathon and people still stuck in the traffic. But thank you.
I have the privilege of asking you questions for the first 30 minutes, and then we're going to open up to the audience. So I guess I'd like to start at the beginning, before Hollywood, before Hong Kong, before the Miss Malaysia pageant. When you were 4 years old, you started ballet, you knew you wanted to be a dancer. And I'm just wondering how the daughter of a lawyer and a politician chooses dance as a career so early on, and were they always supportive of your decision, of your passion?
Well, I was told that I started dancing before I learned how to walk. That's from my mom. And yes, they've always been very, very supportive. My parents with what I want to do, which career path I decided to take. Well, definitely my mom approved because she was the one who put me through all the ballet classes and all the piano lessons, like all good mothers do with their daughters, right? And at the age of 4, I loved ballet. And so in all my years growing up in Ipoh, ballet was probably one of the most important things in my life. And in fact, I went on to England to study ballet. But unfortunately, when I was there, when I was about 15, 16, I had a very serious injury to the back. And I was told by the specialist at that time, can you imagine you're a 16-year-old sitting in front of the doctor and you think, oh, this nice old guy is going to be looking after you, and he says, have you ever thought of doing something else other than ballet? And then I'm like, well, my dad's a lawyer. I thought about it, very, very briefly. And suddenly the realization, and you know that expression, your dream just cracked. Yeah, that was exactly what happened. And I realized what he was telling me was, you have to give up all this physical dance, because ballet can be very brutal on the body. So I don't know what I'm doing in an action career. So that was when I went on to a very physical dance path, to a much more academic, which was choreography, history, but it was still very much involved in the dance world, because that was my world, and I would have loved to either been a choreographer or a teacher, and my thought at that time was I would have a school back in Malaysia one day.
And you minored in drama when you graduated. But yes. I was looking at all these interviews that you've given, and you said that you found drama stuffy, constricting.
Are there any English in the audience?
Anyone from
English very particular about their theatre. So when I did my degree in dance, and I thought, well, I should minor in something, either music or drama, and I thought drama would help with the performance, because dance is about using the body. Then I forgot drama also uses a lot of words. And I have stage fright. I realized I don't have stage fright when I'm dancing. I'm using my body to express the movements and the expression. Then I suddenly realized that when I had to use words to I forgot who it was, my heart starts racing. It was a completely different experience. So if at that time, someone would have gone to my professors and said, one day Michelle would be quite a well-known actress, they would have probably fallen over and died laughing or something like that.
So what is it about dance and film then that you find a freedom of expression in that you don't find in theatre and text and a lot of heavy dialogue? What is it about film that attracts you?
I think it's, now I have a greater understanding of what performance, what text is. It's different. When you are able to understand it, you are able to make it work for you. It's because I never went to film school, right? So it was baptism by fire when I was first introduced to the Hong Kong film world. And in Hong Kong at that time in the 80s, nobody worked with a script. A script was almost unheard of. If a director comes to you by the week, you would be filming, you know, and you would get onto the set that day and they would say, okay, these are your lines. And then the biggest problem I had, I didn't read Chinese. You know, I was brought up where Bahasa and English were my first languages, and so Chinese was not. So I couldn't read it. Well, it didn't matter at that time because they kept changing the dialogue. So, and then I couldn't really speak Cantonese very well. And in my first movie, fortunately, they had to change the dialogue so often. We would be told to just say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, because when they were editing and they would read, I mean, I never done my own film for about 10 years in my career. Then you go to, when you're watching the film, you go, so that was what she was saying to him. And then, you know, the understanding of what was going on in the film, because it was, you know, it was happening through the editing, through the filming, the whole process. So it helped me when I was learning very hard. Then I was very blessed because I joined a new film company called D&B, and I was a newcomer. So by my second film, they said, you know, is there something you would like to try? My first movie was Owl versus Dumbo. They used to have great titles, you know, in those days. It was a Sammo Hung movie with George Lam, and it was a typical action comedy film, where the boys were the ones that did all the action, and the girls were the damsel in distress waiting to be rescued. So when I was watching, and I realized that all this action that Sammo, because he was a director, the stunt coordinator, and the actor, which is quite normal in a Hong Kong film. So, and I thought it is so similar to dance, because it's like choreography, dance, rhythm, learning, and then finding a partner who's able to do the whole procedure with you. So in my second film, I boldly say, I would like to try action. And they looked at me and go, are you sure? Are you serious? Do you not understand what that's about? I said, you've got nothing to lose, right? If it doesn't work out, you can stick me back into the same box. Long hair, you know, the damsel in distress. So we tried our first action movie, and fortunately it worked out quite well. But that was a lot of bruising along the way.
You've been injured so many times. I have a list. I don't know if I can go through it, but it's like knee surgery, dislocated shoulder, cracked ribs, cracked vertebrae, ruptured artery in your neck, and you're afraid of heights. And so
it's terrible. I get stage fright. I have a fear of heights. I'm claustrophobic. I am no action hero. Okay?
Is there anything that you won't do on set? Is there anything that you will not do?
Nudity. I have too many little ones out there, and my parents, I don't think they would like to see me do that. No, I don't think I can handle it. That's the short of the matter.
You talked before about wanting not to be in this pretty box when you were talking.
No, I do want to be pretty.
No, you are. You don't have to not to be. You are.
Even when we're doing the action, make sure I can get my right side in.
But you've been, you know, you're lauded for your beauty. You've been a skincare ambassador, and you are stunning, I must say. But I just want to know, how have you navigated around the boxes that people might have wanted to put you in during your career? Action hero as opposed to romantic lead, or your gender being, you know, in a box you can't be an action hero, or your nationality, or your age. How have you been able to navigate around those boxes and create the kind of career that you have?
You convince people. You have to work very hard at it. I remember when I first went to Hollywood, you know, when you're doing the rounds. In fact, it was Terence Chang who called me and said, you know, you're enjoying a great career in Hong Kong. Why don't you come over, you know, to America? And you know, when you're very complacent, you're having such a really wonderful time, you go, that's far away, and it's a completely new market. And to be honest, at that time, Hollywood was really concerned about Hollywood. They weren't concerned about Asia or Southeast Asia because our box office was so minimal to them. So they were not apart from the people who loved Asian films, in general, there was not a big lot of Hollywood producers or agents, especially agents who knew what was going on in Asia. So I remember going there and taking my first couple of meetings. The first thing they always said to me was like, wow, you speak English, it's not bad. So I would look at him and go, well, you know, it was a long flight, it was a 13-hour flight, so I learned on the way. And then they would say, oh, Malaysia, oh, Japan? And I'm like, well, you guys, did you ever learn geography when you went to school? So it was a process. It wasn't, they were a little condescending, you know, it was like, oh, yeah, why would you want, okay. But it was important as well, I came to realize, because I was getting a little too complacent in Asia. And it was good to give me a kick in the butt and say, you know, there's so many things for you to learn out there, and you should open your eyes, be more humble, go there and, you know, start from square one. It was like going back to kindergarten, trying to persuade them. It happened in a couple of movies, yes. The movie that you would have seen here that I did would be with Jackie Chan, because Police Story 3 got picked up on Miramax and it was released in the general audience. And fortunately, Jackie is such a big star, you know, so I tagged along and managed to get my few minutes of fame.
And not just a few minutes. I wanted to ask about the lady, because I heard somewhere that actually before the role was offered to you, you pursued the role. You found out, you know, through the grapevine that they were doing this movie and you were very passionate about playing this role. You've done biopics before, you've played real people before. What's the difference between preparing for a role that where the person is still living or where the person is very strong in the audience's mind, in their memory, as opposed to someone like a Bond girl?
I'm very proud of the Bond girl. You know, you can walk into London and say, I'm a Bond girl. And say, but the lady was truly a very, very special experience, journey, not just as a movie, but a personal journey as well. When I first heard about it, you know, in the grapevines you hear producers say, oh yes, we've got someone and we're really looking into hoping to make this film. And I suddenly went, I can't believe it. How come we never thought about that? And so I told my agent, please, if you like your job, go out and find it, because it is mine. So fortunately for him, he did. And then we discovered there were two groups that were trying to make the same subject matter, one in America and one in England. And I met with both of them, and then I decided who I thought was much more, not serious, but had the integrity, who really wanted to tell the story. And it was the English producer, his name is Andy Harris. He was, and another advantage he had was he had just made The Queen. And I thought, wow, if you could handle that subject matter, the lady shouldn't be such a difficult task. So, and his wife, who was a novelist, was the one who wrote the screenplay, Rebecca Frake. They had been to Burma for their honeymoon, and you're talking about at least 10 years ago. So she had taken a long time to do research, and finally, after about 8 years, the script was written, and she was a first-time script writer. But they had so much potential in that script. But what I really loved about the script was it wasn't a political story. Sometimes I think, you know, because there are many political characters in our world where it's a very challenging, a very dramatic and tragic story to tell, because there's violence, scandals, there's heartbreak in there. But here in The Lady, it was really a love story. It should have been called The Lady and the Gentleman, because it really was a story about a woman who understood where she was coming from, her roots, who she was as a daughter of a nation. But then she had a husband if you truly love someone, you help them fulfill their dreams. Because if that makes them happy, it should make you happy. So Dosu, one day she was a mother of 2, the next day she was a mother of hundreds and thousands of children in Burma. The most difficult part for us at that time was she was still in house arrest. She had not even had communication with her own children for 10 years at that point, because what they were trying to do to her, they were isolating her. And that is one of the most difficult things for a human being, because we crave companionship, we crave communication, we need to have that bond with another person. And they felt the one way they could really truly break her spirit was to cut her off. And thank God, she didn't have a phone, she didn't have a TV, she had a radio. And Dosu is one of the most disciplined person I've ever met in my entire life. I mean, some people would say, no, you're stubborn. And she goes, no, I am just disciplined. This is the way I want to live my life, and this is how I see it to be my principles. It might not be yours, but you cannot call me stubborn simply because you don't agree with me. So at that point, when we were trying to make this movie, so you have to understand, if her children can't even communicate with her, we have absolutely no chance. And we didn't want to jeopardize her situation. Because remember, just before she was released from house arrest, there was an American who swam into her compound just as she was supposed to be released, and her house arrest got extended for another 18 months. The pretext was, well, you should not have allowed someone to swim into your compound because you are supposed to be under house arrest. So can you imagine if we said, we're going to make a movie about you, and they say, how can you agree to let them do that? So guess what, we'll put you in jail for another 2 years. So I don't know whether we were overthinking it, but we felt very protective of her. Fortunately, at that point, Rebecca Frey had met Michael Aris' brother, twin brother. And I hope that all of you who are sitting here have seen this movie, The Lady, so you know who I'm talking about. And Anthony Harris, I think, had this burning desire to tell his brother's story, because it was very easy to forget who Michael Harris was, because he was always in the background. He was the one who pursued the fact that his wife would get the Nobel Peace Prize, so he could keep the light on her. And the rest of the world would not be allowed to forget what this woman was trying to achieve in her country. So he wants to tell the story, and they somehow met. And because Rebecca and Andy, they have twins, so that was a little bond, connection. And so they became friends, and slowly, that was how we managed to get certain more personal photographs, insights, stories to tell. And then when we were actually ready to do the film, I went to Oxford, I went to visit people where they lived around that area. And so at one point, when Kim turned around and said to me, you know, Michelle, my mom hasn't been back here for 20-something years. I wonder if the people really remember her, or the memory that they have are things they see, how they want them to be. And it was very, very interesting, because, you know, when that woman was so iconic, it's like, have you forgotten? Maybe she has flaws. She must have had, right? When she was bicycling around with a bicycle with the 2 kids and shopping and all that, because she was a housewife at that point when they lived there. And it was when she went back to Burma, it wasn't because she had political intentions. It was simply because she was the daughter of the most revered general, whose father really managed to unite the people of Burma for the first time, and they had democracy. So they hoped that with her as the forefront, people would be reminded, this is the daughter of the man who gave us what we needed, and, you know, under her banner, we can do something. She didn't want it at first because, you know, she didn't feel she was a politician, but she was a natural, and that was her biggest gift, I think. My biggest problem was, how do I emulate, how do I become this woman that so many people loved and revered. But I didn't want to just show that side of her because that would feel very two-dimensional, because you would know that side of her. I felt that people needed to know who's the real woman. The woman, the mother, who had to make these hard choices. When you ask her now, she always never says that it was a sacrifice. It's a choice. A choice that I had to be in my country. A choice that I didn't leave, even though when my husband was very sick, my 2 children had to fend for themselves in England. Because if I left my country, I would never be able to come back. She could have been like Mandela, you know, she could have gone to prison, but they never locked her door. At any point she wanted to leave, they would have had a private plane for her to leave.
But they didn't give her a choice, did they? They said you couldn't come back.
Of course. Yeah. But then, you know, the choice is that you could leave, and you can still campaign for your country outside, which is like the Dalai Lama, he does that. You know? So, but she felt that she had to be with the people, because if she wasn't with the people, then it's just not the same. So I only managed to learn as much as I could about this woman, was seeing videos and interviews and videos, you know, because when you do interviews, there are moments when the real you comes across as well. You know, not very long, but there are moments when you can see the real sadness or the real, I have to be calm, impatient. And I think what got me the most was when Michael Evans was really sick, and she was still asked in interviews. And I know, you know, with reporters, that is their job. And one reporter asked her outright, you know, your husband is really sick, how do you feel about it? And you could see in that second, that intense sadness. Then she pulled herself together, and she goes, yes, I know, but, you know, I'm here for really important work for my country as well. And she plows on. And so it's very inspirational.
And I think you are very inspirational in that. It's a heartbreaking film, very heartbreaking film, and I think all the more heartbreaking now that we've heard from you. You know, where do I go from there? You've worked almost consistently from when you were crowned Mr. Malaysia until now, and I'm wondering, you took retirement. You retired from film for a little while.
When I got married.
When you got married. 80s into 1992.
So I'm in awe of women who can juggle, you know, being married, being a mother, and having a career. And at that point, I thought I couldn't do it. Because, you know, especially in our line of work, where you are not, it's not like a 9-to-5 job, and you're not always in the same place. There's a lot of traveling, depending on the location of the films. I mean, I wish we could tell the producers, could you just do it like in the city where I live, you know? But that doesn't happen, because the stories take you to places where you want to be and you want to go there. So it was a very conscious choice, because, you know, I felt that I like to be very focused on what I do, and I feel that I have to give it my fullest before, and I felt that I couldn't do the two. So I decided that, you know, being a wife and hopefully a mother would be my choice. And when it didn't work out, I was very, very blessed that I could still go back into acting again. And sometimes that's not easy, because I was away from the screen for about 4 years. And in fact, I have to thank the media, the reporters, especially in Hong Kong and in Taiwan, because, you know, every time I saw them, because, you know, I tried to live the normal life, coming out again, and they said, you know what, the people are still waiting for your next film. They don't think that you've retired, they think you're just taking a holiday, and you should come back. And I said, wow, that's really, really nice of you guys to say so. So here I am.
And we're very thankful. Can I ask you, you're on the jury of many film festivals. You're judging films, you're watching so many films and making decisions on what makes a great film. How do you make those decisions? What is a great film for you?
It is very, very hard. In fact, sometimes I don't know why I agree to do it. I went down the how do you say no to being asked to be in the jury of Cannes or Berlin. And it is very, very difficult because, you know, it's from a spectrum of amazing directors, amazing subject matters. It's like, how do you compare a diamond with a sapphire, with a ruby, with an emerald? They're all jewels, they're all gems. But then you have to sit back and you go, at this point, what is the movie that speaks to you? It's very personal as well, but you try to be also technical. You try and think from the storytelling. Sometimes when we go in, we almost want to say to them, don't tell me who the director is. Because, you know, you suddenly get, oh, well, it's a well-known director. Do you feel obliged to look at it with different eyes? But this is the first time director and he's able to be on the panel. Do you also pay extra attention? So sometimes we say, just blindfold, don't tell us all who they are, and let us see the movie and take it in as, you know, what it is. It's hard. And it's actually quite political at the end of the day when you're in the room. It's like, okay, you suddenly realize you break up into groups with the jury members because I would love these kind of films. And you find that there's a group that loves another kind of movies. So then you find out that you're trading, okay? If I give you this, but I want that. So it's a very interesting procedure. But I think the most important thing is to understand that whatever movies that actually get into the finals, to be there, to be selected, they're winners already. Because the whole process is year-long, and they have been chosen from thousands of movies from around the world. So, you know, for the people, the organizers who have to choose it, that's really the most important work that's gone in. And for us, it's just the cherry on the cake. And we are just very fortunate to have that opportunity to do that. And in fact, one of the reasons why I do want to be a jury member is I get to watch the movies. Unfortunately, a lot of the times, movies like that don't get released too long in the cinemas because they come and go, or they're on a very limited release. So when you're there, you get to watch all these films from around the world. But it is hard because sometimes you watch 3-4 movies a day, and that's not easy.
I'd like to ask you one more question before we open up to the audience. You do so many things. You're on these juries. You are a representative of so many different charities as well. You have your own production house. You've even designed a bag for Todd's. You do so many different creative things. Is there anything that you haven't done yet that you would like to do?
Yes, there's a lot of things that I have on my bucket list. I'm always trying to find new things to learn because I think in life, you know, you must live it to its full, and the only way you can do that is to find new things to learn. And I learn from the people that I meet, I learn from the children, and I especially love learning from the kids because they have such obviously because they're youth, they have that new outlook on life, and they ask you questions where you go, why didn't I think of that?
So you have like 5 godchildren?
I have 6 godchildren.
6.
And I have 2 of my nephews sitting in the crowd there, Max and Thompson. Where are you? There they are. You see, they're very, very supportive. I kick them out of bed, like, of course you're coming. I love children. I'm very, very blessed to have great friends who are willing to let their children be my godchildren. And fortunately, my sister-in-law has also blessed me with like 4 amazing kids. No, I think for me, I'm very blessed because my work is not work. It's a passion. It's a choice, and I can choose the people, the projects that I want to work on. So it's a blessing, it really is. So I enjoy the time. I try to make the most of the time that I'm on that project and meet new people and learn from them. And I also have my son team from the amazing TV series that I just did in Johor, which is Marco Polo 2, and they came in support of me. And it's amazing because they're from Beijing and you don't understand a single word I'm saying. 谢谢. On the roads, children who are just going to school, 50 million people get injured on our roads. These are statistics that we don't even understand or hear about a lot because, you know, it happens a few here, there. It's news, but in very small letters. But it's like 3, 4 planes falling from the skies, and you would be horrified if something like that happens. So how can we not be doing that? I remember when I first started to campaign for AIDS, people would say, you don't want to do that because, you know, you're a woman and it's taboo and So I was like, no, we need to know about this and it is our responsibility. And then they said, oh, sexy is not very sexy because people don't really understand what is road safety? We're like, no, because you know, it's our children who are out there on the roads, and if you think about it, the minute you step out of your house, you are on the roads. And it is your right that the roads are safe, so you are protected. And that is what we are campaigning for, that the government take the responsibilities, the laws are enacted, then there is implementation, and then it is also up to us. The laws are there not to inconvenience you. They are really there to protect you, whether it's the safety belts. You know, people put it on and go, oh, my dress. And the safety belts at the back as well. I mean, I still go to some developed nations, as they call themselves, and when you put on your safety belt because you're a VIP, they go, oh, no, it's not necessary. I go, no, it's necessary because it's for my safety. So it's a process, but we feel the urgency. Because, you know, our motorization is shooting up every day. There are more cars on the road, not just cars, but trucks, and because we want things to come from one place to the other faster. So we need to have these things in place. The developed nations are good because they understand. They are trying to get the fatality down as quick as possible. Then it's the developing nations that are so in need of getting their things quickly that their infrastructure is not being planned properly. So what we're trying to do to go to them is, the good news is we have the vaccines. We have the know-how. Because in all the years the developed nation is contributing is because they've made mistakes. We can learn from them. We have the good practices. And I love being able to go to the government and say, you have a problem, but I have the solution. I mean, no political party, no government likes to know that they know they have the problems. But if they can't solve it, why dig up another problem that you want to highlight? So we go to them and we say, you know, around your schools, if you put these kind of speed limits into place, if you have the pedestrian crossings, if you do this, do this, and some of it, it's very cheap and can be applied almost instantaneously, immediately, and it will make such an incredible difference. I'm so sorry. Once I get started, just don't stop me.
Don't be sorry at all. If you would like to ask a question, please put up your hand and someone with a microphone will come around. Who would like to ask a question? Yes, the lady in the front here. We can go back.
Ladies first.
Hi, Michelle. Thanks for being here in Singapore. And my question is, given all the changes over the years in terms of safety standards on sets, CG, technology, particularly looking back at your earlier work in Hong Kong, are there any stunts that you would have done differently, knowing what we have now, or maybe not done at all?
Okay, I will tell you a very funny story. When Supercar, the movie that I did with Jackie Chan, when it was taken to redubbed, and then, you know, it was in America, and we do Q&A after the movie, and I remember the audience was going, wow, I thought, CG was not so amazing in the Hong Kong films, but the CG in your movie is amazing. It's fantastic. So Jackie and I looked at each other, you did CG? How come I didn't get it? They thought the train, everything that we did on the train was all CG. Because we all welcome the CG part, because it has made our life a lot safer. Because when we do the stunts in the old days, there was a lot of risk in it. And I remember when I was dubbing Supercar, and I was going, ow, whoa, what was I thinking at that time? Because if you look at the outtakes, I could have been very, very seriously injured. I could have like cracked my head open, especially that one time where I rolled off the van and the glass didn't break and I just slipped off the car. So if we had CG, we would not have put ourselves in that position. But I must also admit, at that point, the Hong Kong filmmaking, that they took stunts to that level because they didn't have the luxury of CG, but they had the luxury of incredible stunt people who were willing, who were crazy enough, I must say, I'm sorry to say, to take those kind of risks so that the audience would get that, whoa, my God, did they really do that? I mean, Jackie, Samuel, Yeoh, you know, they were the ones who put all these kind of things up there. Today, no way would I do something like that. And I'm very grateful for the fact that we don't have to do this. You know, like with my stunt team, they understand exactly what you are capable of. And safety, now I'm very happy to say, is the most important thing. And it should have always been like that. And in fact, the movie that I did called The Stunt Woman, the story of Akam, was also to tell the story of the unsung heroes, the people who don't see their faces, because you know whenever they're on the screen, they're always blocked. You see their back, you see their side, but you never see their faces. But actually, it's them that makes it look so amazing.
Yes, another question. Yes, this lady in the front.
Hi. So it was surprising to hear that you actually had stage fright when you were starting out. So and I remember in another interview you said that you still have that kind of stage fright. So when you embarked on your acting career, how did that work out?
When I embarked
on your acting career, how did that work out with your stage fright?
How did you deal with your stage fright when you
Well,
first
the good thing about doing film is you can have second take, third take, fourth take. About the 15th take, the producer will probably come and say, come on, I can give you like 2 hours to go and learn your lines. But it's a process that you really learn to, you overwhelm this fear. Like I have a great fear of heights. But the minute I hear the word action, I'm doing my stunts, I'm flying, the minute it says cut, it's like, you're cool, you're fine. So you talk yourself out of it. It's like you could be in the extreme cold, like I was filming in Budapest just recently. And you know, of course, it's always like that. You're wearing summer clothes when you're filming in freezing temperature. You're wearing winter thick coats when you're filming in like extreme heat. So you learn to teach your mind to, I'm very zen. And suddenly I heard because it was so cold. And of course I was wearing a skirt, you know, and high heels. And you're freezing, everybody is freezing with their big coats. But then you have to take all these things off. But of course it's always a few minutes before you start to film. Then my DP came up to say to me, I have learned your trick now. And I go, what? Because before the camera rolls, I can see that everybody is like this. Suddenly they said rolling, and that's the cue for camera, and then action. The minute I hear the word rolling, I can see you physically start going like this. I'm clenching. And by the time camera, action, then you do, and then suddenly cut. So it's a process that you learn, and I have learned over the years. So with film, we have the buffer, because if it's not a good take, we have the buffer to do it again. You don't have that same kind of buffer when you are doing stage. It's live performances. And if you are with a live audience, it's more difficult because you are on the spot, literally. I mean, literally, the lights are on you and everybody is staring at you. And you go, please don't hope that I'm going to say something really wise. Okay. So it's a process that you have to go through.
Okay. Can I just ask a follow-up question, quick one? So it sounds like you keep doing things that you're actually really afraid of. So why do you make the choice to go into this line?
I think life should be challenging. I think life is a learning process. It has to challenge you. I think in that way, you learn to be better. You improve yourself. God forbid, if I don't think I will ever come to a point where I think I know, because I think then it would be really boring. Because in this way, I challenge myself to do things that I know I am terrible at or I'm not good at, and in hopes that, I will get better at it. And then especially love to do things that are new. I choose sometimes movies because of the location that they are going to take me to. I met with a very young, up-and-coming director at that time called Aziz Padia, and we did this movie called Fathers. And it was filmed in Svalbard, in the Arctic. So my agent was quite surprised that I said, no, I want to meet this director because, he had just done a short film and he had just done one movie, but he had come up with this story that was going to take place in the North Pole. And when I met him, I was very blown away by his passion and his intention of filming. Plus, I was going to spend a couple of months on an icebreaker. Now that is an adventure. So if you have any good ideas like that, I'm always open to.
I'm going to start thinking of something. Yes. Anyone else? Yes, there's a...
How about a gentleman for a change?
Yes, okay, a gentleman.
Hi, Miss Michelle Yeoh.
Hi.
Yes. I always think you are the spokeswoman for Born Girl. Because you have lifted the status of a Born Girl. And because of you, they are no more doing decorative roles. And they have a voice, and they are more participative, and they are being more respected. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, thank you. That's a really nice compliment coming from you. I cannot take the credit. It really is because it has to be the producers, the directors who wanted that vision at that time. And I was very fortunate. Roger Swanswood, Barbara Rockley, who is the producer, Michael Wilson, they sat down and go, I think, okay, everybody is saying that Bond is getting, too misogynist. Maybe we need to pump him up a bit. And they go, and the usual suspect was always, okay, like a femme fatale. Oh, we'll find a beautiful Russian girl to do that. And I was very blessed. In the writers' room, there were a couple of them who went, how about this actress called Yeoh? She kicks ass. They went, really? What is kick ass? So then we started going in. And then I was very happy because Barbara Rockley, she is a very strong woman. And they said, okay, we're going to meet her. And she actually came to Italy, where I was, to track me down to meet with me. And after we had that meeting, she said, I would love for you to come and audition. I know, that was really painful. When I first went to Hollywood, auditions were one of the most painful experiences. Because in Hong Kong, we don't understand really the meaning of that word. So, and I had the privilege to audition with peers. Thank God we had chemistry. Because I remember also then, Roger Swanswood coming up to me. He said, you're going to have to audition tomorrow, let's sit down and talk. Because you have to remember, you are here not because you are able to do action. You are here because we want an actress for the role. If you can't do the action, I can get a stunt double in any time. If you have no chemistry with peers, and if you can't act, I can't find a double for you. So that was one of it was very good and empowering, because at that point, I was much better known for my action roles. And it's very easy to be typecast. I understand as a producer that if I find a certain actor, and that is what their box office draw is to gravitate, Their intention may have been good at the beginning, but then they still gravitate towards, but that is what our audience wants. So, they start slowly adjusting, and next thing you know, this song looks very familiar. So it was an incredible experience working on a Bond movie, because sometimes people always ask, don't you find it that you are labeled as a Bond girl. No way! Do you know how cool it is to be a Bond girl? And it does, when you make a Bond movie, it's the responsibility actually really is just as fun. Because you go to incredible locations and everything is catered to you. And I was very lucky because at that time they did want to highlight the fact that we have a Bond girl who is going to be on par with James Bond. She is herself a spy from China, and they are not easy to be reckoned with. She will be as physical as him and able to be doing whatever he does, or even better. And I had the best male star because he had no ego, in the sense that he didn't think, she's doing all that, okay, what am I doing to make sure that nobody's going to think, oh, Bond, he's such a wimp, he can't even do that. He was so confident with who James Bond was, Pierce Brosnan, and this James Bond is cool. He does his guns. I don't need all that. And so we had fun, and it wasn't a competition, but it was a new look for the Bond girls, whereby we come out, we can stand on our own, and we actually brought our stunt team from Hong Kong to do the choreography for all my action sequences, to ensure that we had that integrity of the kind of action that we wanted to show. Okay, she's jumping.
Yes, she has 3 times. The lady next to the gentleman. Okay.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi.
My name is Grace.
Hi, Grace.
Yeah, first of all, I'm Malaysian, and I'm your biggest fan. So I'm this excited. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, I'm so excited. Oh my god. Okay. So my question for you: what are your thoughts about people who think doing stunts is only for males? I mean, myself, I'm a stunt woman, and I'm also an actor. And I mean, mostly in Malaysia and Singapore, from what I know of, is that wait.
It's okay.
Maybe while you catch your breath, Michelle can start to answer.
Don't worry, those things, I have emotions. I get that sometimes as well. Take it deep.
What do you think of, or what do you say to people who say no, women can't be stunt women? Stunt people are not women, they can't do it. You have a student who wants to be a stunt person here, very overwhelmed. How did you say?
As in, I'm a stunt woman myself. Yeah. And like in Singapore and Malaysia, normally, even for women who are doing action, you always have male doubles instead of a female double.
Yes, we still do that sometimes. It's not because we're saying that the women's stunt doubles are not good. Seriously, I don't believe that is what they are trying to do. Like for example, in Marco Polo 2, where I had my own stunt woman who did all my stunts when it was needed. And a lot of the times it's like trying, because there's not that many great stunt women around. In fact, there's not that many stunt women around, because there are more in numbers, in proportion. And also there are not that many action women around as well. So there is not that much, but for a guy, there's much more work in that way. Because normally, let's say when you're fighting with a crowd, normally you're fighting all guys. Very rarely you're fighting, the soldiers, they all tend to be men. Right? So don't be disheartened. Seriously. I truly believe that what you do is amazing, because I have the biggest respect for all the stunt people, men and women, because you make this look so good. If not for you guys, we will not be looking as well and as tough as it can be. But I'm also very happy to know that you're an actress, because you have to hone in on your acting skills so that you can use your stunt person skill to enhance your acting. To be an actor with, oh, by the way, I can do stunts too. Because that's how I would hope that my producers, the people who come to me, look at me. Like I always say, first and foremost, I'm an actress. I'm not an action actress. And I remember who was the one person who was very upset when people would say, oh yes, Michelle, she is the action actress, and sorry. She is not an action actress, she is an actress. And it's the same thing. I am not an Asian actress, I am an actress. We should not be defined by our color, our nationality. Because when it comes out on the screen, if we can carry that role, the screen is not going to have at the bottom, Michelle Yeoh, 1962, Malaysian, Chinese, origin. Okay, that means I cannot be a Japanese, I cannot be a Korean, I cannot be this, I cannot be that. I can only play a Malaysian. So we have to be open. But there are certain things that we have to, hurdles, obstacles that we fight because they're worth it. And we will keep fighting for that.
Thank you. I love you.
Two more questions. Who would like to ask a question? Yes. The lady in the red scarf?
Yes.
You come from the same hometown, Michelle.
Oh, you're from Ipoh Mani.
I eat your cell. Remember me? I eat your aunt.
Oh my God! This is what my relatives like to do to me. Sorry, it's because with the lights,
Yes, you can't see
really
them.
I will come down and see you after.
You make movies all over the world. Why don't you make one in Ipoh, our hometown?
I did film we did the movie The Touch, and we did do some. I am trying very, very hard because I think Ipoh has got many qualities, locations, and in fact, it was because of that and we came to film there as well. So I am still trying, not for the lack of trying. I'm afraid that when I'm there, I don't get a chance to film. I'll just be eating, entertaining all my friends and my mother's friends and all the relatives.
One more question. Who would like to ask a question? Yes, the lady in the back.
Hi, good day, Michelle.
Hi.
It's nice to meet you here. Since you have shared about you run a lot of campaign like road safety, AIDS. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. And you also shown in the ladies. Because you bring a lot of awareness for people about road safety and AIDS. So since lately Malaysia have a lot of happenings, have you ever thought of make a film to bring awareness to other country about what's happening in Malaysia? Since you were also shown in the lady and you bring awareness about what's happening in Myanmar. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think it's very interesting. We have to, for me, when I make the movies, I've often been asked this question, do you do it, like especially from local filmmakers, they always say, are you making the movie for local audience, or you want to make the movie that you can also sell to somewhere else? So that's the same question basically. When we made The Lady, she was such an iconic figure that the whole world had to be reminded of. Because when she was in house arrest, that was what they were trying to do. They were trying to make the world forget about her. So that when she was released, they tried to underplay it as much as possible. So what we were trying to do was, it wasn't just a story about the lady, but a story about the nation, and also democracy, freedom, and all those kind of things. So, and it's never easy to make a movie like that. And in fact, after making one, I think it will be a long, long time before I try and make another one similar. But I think it's very important as well as filmmakers, because right now I always have been asked the question, do you make the movie for Hollywood or are you making the movie for China? I think that's the biggest question we have on our plate today. Like the Chinese movies, they say, we want to make a movie for Hollywood, but then it has to have great release in China. So at the end of the day, it seems that the movie is not really here and not really there. And if you look at the Hollywood movies that come over, they're really making the movie for Hollywood. But nowadays, they have sort of the Chinese elements in there in hope that it's more approachable, so that you can understand. When you see familiar faces, it's nicer. Or you find subject matters. If you want to tell a story about China, you find subject matters which is very relevant to China, which can be made by a Hollywood director or a European director, which gives you a different understanding to that story. Because I always find that when we tell our own story, it's very biased because it becomes too personal. And it's always, then it's not really for an audience, it's for you. When we try to make a film, we have to make a good film. And a good film, for example, like Crouching Tiger, when we first made it, nobody expected that it would do as well as, it's like the 4th highest grossing film in America. And at that time when we were going over there, they said to us, if your box office, because Life is Beautiful has the best box office, which was 26 million in America, if we can surpass that, we would be like having parties for the rest of the year. And I think our movie got to about 140 something million, like at the end of the day. When we set out to make this film, we actually set out to make his first martial arts movie. It was a passion, it was a dream. And I believe when you make a movie, it has to come from here. And not just because it's here, or when people want to talk about it and know about it and things like that. And when we made it, we were actually asked to do it in English language because it would have been much more easier. But Ang had very different visions about how his story was going to be told. And as an actor, you wish to work with a visionary who would take you on a different journey, who would inspire you and make you understand even more about your own culture, something that you've grown up with. So when we did Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, it was probably one of my best films, one of my most painful films, but one of the films that would obviously matter to me and has done a lot for my career as well. So I guess in short, to try to answer your question, is that I choose to do movies that I have real passion about and which I really understand and I can tell the story. I can't tell you a story or make you be convinced about a story that I don't understand very well and if I'm not completely passionate about. I think it has to come from someone who has that vision.
And on that, we have to wrap up, or can we have one more question? I'm being told one more question and that's it.
Thank you very much. Michelle, you're making Marco Polo in Malaysia, right now in the studios here for Netflix, is it, I think?
Yes, we are. Okay, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you should have you two on the answers.
I'm just wondering if you see this as telling an Asian story in Asia and if that makes a difference to you. And you've worked all over the world. Where do you think the industry here in this part of the world, Southeast Asia, compares with some of the other places you've worked, let's say in the West, in Europe, in Hollywood?
Actually, the biggest difference always is the budget. No, but seriously, you must watch Marco Polo 1. Then you will understand what they are trying to achieve.
The studio actually.
It's Netflix, and unfortunately we don't have Netflix yet, but I know that it will be here beginning of next year. So I think John Cusco is the creator of Marco Polo. Maybe I should ask you to come and tell the story. Richard is the producer, and Tom is the producer. You see, you producers who do this, they're asking go lower and lower to. But I must say, Marco Polo has been one of the most enjoyable productions that I've been in. on for a very, very long time, and I thank you for that experience, because the passion, the dedication to that work that you see, it's amazing. You walk onto the set and you think you're in a $100 million feature movie. But nowadays, to be honest, TV series are the quality for the set design, the production design, the costume design, the caliber of actors and directors are on par. And in fact, you find that a lot of I don't want to say that, but a lot of actors are beginning to say when we are involved with a TV series, you get a chance to really, truly explore the character in a much fuller way. Simply because if you do a 10 episode, that's 10 hours of filming. But if you're in a film, an hour, 45 minutes, 2 hours, you have to tell your story. You know, you have to make your character be full-blown as it is. So it's different challenges in many different ways. I think in Marco Polo, it's Marco Polo, right? This is an Italian who took that journey to the Silk Road, and he became involved with Kublai Khan and all that. So it is a great journey into the history of this part of the world, but also seen from the perspective of the eyes of the European. So, and I think storytelling always becomes very interesting when it's like that. When we Asians tell our story, somehow that Asian culture is grip is very, very strong. And when you have a European tell the same story, somehow the perspective starts shifting. But then I love the Americans, they tell them in the most simple of ways. So that's filmmaking. And I think that's how we have to enjoy what we see. Whether it's movies, whether it's TV, it's an art form. And art is different with everyone. For example, if you go to the gallery, right, you can be looking at square boxes. And you go, okay, the square boxes. You don't know where the artist could be from, America, but you're in a museum in France or whatever it is. So I think it's very similar to our medium. We tell the story, but we hope that it will transcend the culture, transcend the language, that at the end of the day, whether it's the emotions, whether it's the message, it will come and it will make you feel, and it will make you understand, and it will make you learn more.
Thank you so much for your time and for being so generous. Please.